What's happening, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the 182 News Podcast. This is your host, Poppin' Curbs, and I appreciate you making me a part of your day. I gotta say, today, this is not the episode I thought I would be getting out this month. I thought we were gonna be talking about set list and seeing those three on a stage. And obviously, as we all know by now, Travis had to have surgery on his finger, which has shifted plans, unfortunately. I gotta say, I was a little concerned when I saw him post the second picture of his finger breaking again. Ultimately required surgery. It's a bummer. Look, there's no other way to put it. I feel for all of you down there who were so stoked to see them. I understand frustration to some extent. It's happened to me multiple times. I've been inside a concert waiting for Plus 44 to come on stage, only to hear over the PA that it's not happening. I've been boarding a flight to California on my connection flight, getting ready to step foot on it, only to find out that all of my Blink plans are ruined. I've had the huge VIP package where you got to hang out with them forever, and 2 days before, it was canceled. It sucks. Your heart sinks. There's no other way to put it, but they will be back. There was nothing they could do to avoid this. Look, simple things, when you have hand surgery, simple things like buttoning your shirt, wiping your ass become extremely difficult. I could not imagine trying to play a show to all of Mexico. So obviously, as with anything in life, your health should be your priority. You know, they have the huge headlining US tour coming up. My hope is just that that hand and finger or whatever is good to go by May 4th, I believe is the kickoff. So, you know, keep your thoughts with Travis and all the Blink fam, because that affects so many more folks than you would think. It's not just those three. I know they don't take it lightly. I'm sure it sucks, but there's so many things in the background from promoters, show promoters, all the folks in the Blink camp who have worked so hard to make this little comeback tour so rad. And unfortunately, it's just a freak accident, and we're going to have to wait a little bit longer. They did announce that they're going to be back next summer, so I'm stoked for all of you to finally get that chance to see them. Today, I do have a rad special guest, so we're going to hit on the blink-182 bass project, which is being put together by a rad dude named Joey Blanco. We're going to hit on that. He's also got a rad story about how basically one of Mark's missing bass guitars, an Ernie Ball Music Man we call Peachy, we didn't know where it was forever. And really in the past few weeks, not only have we figured out what happened to it, but we also have it in hand, which is insane. So you're going to get that story as well. So rad convo today. I really hope you enjoy it. You know, we're going to get to the Blink stuff when we can get to the Blink stuff. So as I mentioned, I know it's a bummer. I feel for everyone down there. But, you know, don't be mad at the band or anything like that. I know they did not take this lightly, and it's obviously not what anybody would ever want to do. The last thing I want to mention, and this is just funny. So this is a little bit of insight into my pod life. So when I get an episode out, honestly, I usually proof listen to it probably 4 or 5 times before I get it out. And so by the time it drops, I'm kind of over it and never want to listen to it again. And there's a part of me that just knows that old episodes are probably so fucking terrible. And the other day, I don't know why, I never go back and listen to old episodes because I just cringe at how awful I sound. And I wanted to go back and listen to the Davy Jones conversation. You know, I've kept in touch with Davey. That was, I think, 3 years ago at this point. It's one of the #1 most downloaded podcasts. The podcast just increases with popularity basically every week. It's crazy. But a lot of folks are downloading these old episodes. And I'm like, you know what? I need to see what I sound like, how stupid I sound on these. And my God, I don't think I could make it 7 minutes in. How do you all listen to me? Oh, it was terrible. I'll tell you what it sounded like. It sounded like someone who had no clue what they were doing and was trying to be really quiet because a newborn son was asleep in the room above them. That's what it sounded like. It was like, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 182 News Podcast. Here's Davy Jones, OG fan. Thank you. I mean, good Lord. So I just had to point that out. Thank you for sticking with me. Please don't cringe at my terrible podcast character back then. I feel like I've improved. I feel like it's a little bit funnier. I feel like I know what I'm doing a little bit more. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. As always, I appreciate everybody who listens, who follows the pod page. It just means the world to me. So with that being said, check out the YouTube page. I've been doing rad shit there. I did a countdown of my top 10 Blink-182 album art. That was fun. I did a little video on the history of the Cheshire Cat physical releases when that dropped. So hit up the YouTube page. I'm trying to get content up there actually more often than the pod. So sub there if you haven't. And without further ado, let's jump into my conversation with Joey Blanco, the lead researcher of the Blink-182 bass project. I think you'll learn some rad stuff, and I hope you enjoy hanging out with us for the next hour and a half. Peace. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now joining us on the 182 News podcast, the lead researcher of the Blink-182 bass project, Joey Mad Beards Blanco. Joey, what's happening, dude?
Not much, man. How are you? Thanks for making the time for me.
Hey, no problem. I appreciate you coming on the pod on such short notice. We set this up today, folks. Today.
Listen, that's how all of this has come about. It's been like everything from the bass project to Peachy to this has been, hey, check this out. It's like, oh shit. All right, let's make this happen.
Hey, I get it. We're living on the edge here, folks. Living on the edge. Yeah. So Joey, like many of you, is actually somebody that I've had the pleasure of meeting really through the Blink community. And this is something that I think is just so special about Blink. And it's because it goes beyond the music. It's lifelong friendships. It's research. It's just nerding out over random stuff. And so Joey's somebody who over the past couple of years, really, I noticed knew his shit when it comes to Mark's bass guitars and Mark's gear. You play bass. We'll get into that. So what I really want to get into is there's two things. So Joey has taken it upon himself to start what we call the Blink-182 bass research project. And you probably saw me repost one of his Instagram post on my pod page the other day. We're going to hit on that, kind of why he wanted to start documenting this stuff, where he's at in that journey. And that's something that for folks who listen to my pod or watch my YouTube page, you know that documenting this band's history is like my favorite thing in the world. And I don't want to speak on your behalf, Joey, but for me, what's super important about it is I want to make sure that 50 years from now or whenever I'm not here, if some kid looks up Blink-182 and wants to dive into the history and the research or see whatever Mark plays, to me, I just want to make sure that foundation is laid there. So we'll get into maybe why you were inspired to go down this road. And then there was a long lost Mark Hoppus bass known as Peachy. And we will hit on Operation Peachy for sure. But yeah, that's a long way of saying thank you, Joey, for making time to come on the podcast. We're going to get into some stuff here, but any words to kick us off with?
Oh, man, I'm stoked. I love talking Blink. I love researching. You know, it's the neurodiverse part of my brain that just loves to, like, there's no better way of saying it, to obsess over a topic and just dig in and find. It's chasing. I know you as a collector, right? With the baseball stuff, with Blink stuff, chasing and searching and authenticating and figuring out, well, wait a second, is this piece right? Is that one? Wait, no, this doesn't go here. It actually goes over here first. This came along before that. I love chasing that information. It's a legitimate, like, it's a dopamine rush. It is so much fun to just figure out this puzzle of all of this gear. And man, I know we're going to talk about it. There's so much. There stickers, different pick guards, different control plates, inlays. There's so much. There's so much to take on. Yeah.
That's what's crazy, man. Like, there's so much and there's no documentation. There's like
especially
none.
For Mark's stuff. Like I know you and the Sticker Strat guys, there's a whole, subreddit dedicated to Tom's guitars. I know there's a smaller Mark one, but I feel like so much of the focus has always been on Tom's guitars. And as a bassist, I started playing because of Blink. I've always been so much more drawn to Mark's gear, from the colors to the shape and configuration. But it staggers me that no one has done like really any of this for his basses. And so it was one of those things where it was like, of course I'm going to do this. I love this stuff. Yeah. I've been after it for 20 years now.
It's really interesting to me that, when it comes to Tom's gear, there are so many people who can rattle off stuff. But when it comes to Mark, I'm like,
Yeah.
shit, you basically have to ask Mark, or in the
Yep.
past, Robert, God bless his soul,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, lost him, and he probably knew more than anybody.
Without a
So
doubt.
yeah, it's crazy, dude. When it comes to Mark's bases, and that's where I kind of started noticing you standing out in regards to, I guess, answering questions and, like I said, knowing your shit when it comes to Mark's bass guitars. Because if I have a Mark bass question, I'm basically going to you, Davey, Alan, Sticker
Mm-hmm.
Strat crew, and maybe like the Gear 182 dudes. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know who else to
Yeah.
go to. So, anyways, it's really rad. We'll get into that, but I want to start out with because you and I have really never even chatted face to face. So, I want to actually know, how did you get into Blink to begin with? I'm curious.
Oh, so I consider myself a latecomer to Blink fandom, and by that I mean I started listening with What's My Age Again, right? That music video is the one that captured me. It wasn't Dude Ranch, it wasn't Cheshire Cat. I mean, I was 12 when What's My Age Again hit, and so I was the perfect age to just latch on to that sound, that vibe, that energy. Something about it clicked for me. I In the years prior, not when it first came out, but I was a big fan of Dookie. I love the shit out of Dookie, which is kind of
Hmm.
a funny phrase in and of itself. Dookie's just fantastic. It is such a great album. It's uh, such a it defined to me, I think, like that line between punk and pop punk, right? And I'd been listening to that with friends for years up until before I heard What's My Age Again. But something about Blink clicked for me a little bit more. And I was thinking about it this morning after we were like, hey, let's get on the pod, talk about it. I think honestly, it's that Green Day was grungier, dirtier, and a little bit more punk. And at the risk of killing any of my non-existent punk cred, I grew up a fairly privileged white suburban kid, much like the guys in Blink. So I think there was that reflection, right?
Yeah.
I was seeing a little bit of myself in Mark, Tom, and Travis running around naked, more so than I did with Billy Joe and then Mike and Trey. Not again to take anything away. It's just that was a little bit more that had more of an edge. I've never had an edge at all. I've always skewed more on the pop side of it. So I it's something about What's My Age Again just like clicked, and I was hooked.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting because a lot of folks, and we're probably pretty close in age. I mean, I got into Blink like mid 1997, so I'm not too
Hmm.
far ahead of you. But it's interesting to me because at that time there was just so much crap on the radio. It was literally like Spice Girls, NSYNC,
Yeah.
98 Degrees, and then all of a sudden you have these three like really funny dudes who seem like they could be your big brother. Or I had
Yep.
friends who had older brothers, and that's how they would act. So yeah, it's crazy how all of us were like drawn to them during that time period because they were just so funny and they just seemed like us.
Yeah. It was very much that. I grew up with two sisters, so I never had an older brother. I didn't really have, that guiding presence. So it was very much like I think that's a great way of putting it. It was like, oh geez, these are the dudes that they could have been my older brother. And when you're a 12, 13-year old, you're like, oh yeah, wouldn't it be so cool to just be their friend, and I could talk Star Wars with Mark because he wrote A New Hope and blah blah blah. All those silly little, teenage ideas. Man, it's funny you mentioned just all the crap that was on the radio because I don't remember when I first got Enema of the State, but I remember distinctly getting Now That's What I Call Music 3, Christmas 1999. I just pulled it up. That had What's My Age Again on it, and that's why my parents got it for me. But we're also looking at like Smash Mouth and Bailamos by Enrique Iglesias,
Yeah.
sometimes by Britney Spears. You've got Casey and JoJo on there, Fatboy Slim, Nookie. Like it is such an encapsulation of everything that was just thrown on the radio at that
Yeah.
time. And that's how I heard most of my music. So the fact that What's My Age Again was able to break through that noise and hit me, I think is all the more impressive because I didn't know how to use the internet then, right? I wasn't actively paying attention to MTV and TRL and all that stuff. until What's My Age Again.
Yeah, game changer, man. And
Oh yeah.
they were so relatable. I think that's a big key as well. I would love to see a documentary on just like 1999
Man.
music.
Yeah.
Because, for us sitting there, it's like, no, we're not 98 degrees with like wife beater tanks on and tans and all that stuff. But it's like
Uh-huh.
you look at Blink and they're wearing a Hurley shirt, Dickie
Yep.
shorts, Vans, and they're just out having dick jokes and
Yep.
tacos and just jamming with their friends and having a good time. So that's such a huge part of Blink. But it's kind of tough to explain to somebody who maybe wasn't around during that time period.
Yeah, I can't imagine becoming a Blink fan at any other time. Like I can understand my time and earlier, right? Or even around Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. But anytime after that, I feel like you're just getting such a different iteration of the guys, right? It just that moment spoke to me. I can't imagine being a teenager when California came out. That's probably the closest equivalent I could think. But even then, Mark and Matt and Travis are they're in their 40s versus being in their 20s or early 30s.
Yeah,
So there's that like real big difference in just kind of where you are as a human being. That again, it was 99 was that perfect storm.
totally. That was a great year, man. They were out
It
with
was.
Eminem on Warped Tour. Jesus
Oh my
Christ.
God. Yeah.
So when did you start playing bass? Because you've got several rad basses. I know you as a
Yeah.
bass player. I mean, you seem like a pretty good bass player. So when did you start picking up a bass guitar?
So I got my very first bass Christmas 2000. It was like this, I think it was called like a Dean. It was just this generic black bass. I didn't have a tuner. I didn't know how to tune a bass. I didn't know how to change strings. I didn't know you needed to change strings. But I remember that Christmas morning unpacking it, and the first thing I tried to learn was Adam's song. I
Mm,
immediately looked up the tabs to Adam's song and gave it a go. Um, I don't actually think I became a bassist until, say, maybe 8 years ago. Like up until then, it was just like, oh, I can play this thing, right? I can do this. I've been in bands, I've played in high school and all that, and I would jam along to songs I liked. But it wasn't until, yeah, about 8 years ago when I actually started taking it seriously, started to learn by ear, started to explore the kind of lines I wanted to write instead of just leaning on a guitarist to write a line for me like I did in high school or just playing along to the roots. It wasn't until then that I started to take it seriously. But man, I've been playing now for just over 22 years, which is insane to think about.
damn. Did Mark
Yeah.
and or Blink inspire you to get your first bass or anything, or was that just by
Yes.
coincidence?
Oh, it was absolutely Blink that was like, oh man, I wanna do that. Right. It was watching the What's My Age Again video and being like, no, I could pick up an instrument. I want to do that. So yeah, it was Blink. It was What's My Age Again that was like, yep, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get one of those. And it's hanging on my wall. It's you can't really see it right now. Let me see if I can get my thumb right. That bass right there, it's a 2001, it's my second bass. 2001 Mexican Fender in agave blue. And I got it in that color because all I had to go off of was like, oh, Mark's playing a blue Fender in What's My Age Again. Maybe it's that one. Again, not realizing that, oh, right, basses were made before. Colors are going to change. Like these are things that didn't occur to me as a
Right.
12, 13-year-old. Um, but yeah, so I have that bass on the wall in that color specifically because of Mark's, Sonic Blue bass.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
rad. So you kind of fall in love with Blink 99. You pick up a bass guitar. Let's fast forward, I guess, a little bit. But do you
Yeah.
stay a big fan of Blink with Toy Page,
Oh
Untitled, The
yeah.
Breakup, all that stuff? I mean, have you been following
So
them pretty hardcore?
I, the Toy Page tour was my very first concert. July 31st, 2001. Me and we had just, if you graduate from middle school, we had just graduated from eighth grade, about to enter high school. Last hurrah for me and a bunch of friends. So we all went out to the Alltel Pavilion in Raleigh, North Carolina to go see. It was Midtown opening, Newfound Glory, and then Blink. Like
Man,
if you're gonna go to a first pop punk show, like that's some chef's kiss shit right there. It was
shoo.
amazing. Man, I remember piling into Wes's mom's van to go to the Oak Hollow Mall to all go get a copy of Toy Page when it came out. I got the red plane, the takeoff version. Um, yeah, I was heavy. Blink was my personality for most of high school. Um, I yeah, man, I've got memories of going to Pop Disaster Tour, picking up Untitled when it came out. Um, I started to kind of, I don't remember what exactly happened, but sometime right as I was starting college, right as Blink had broken up, I just kind of shifted more into like an indie rock thing. Came back around with I was a big fan of Angels, or at least the first album. I didn't really listen too much to anything after that. And I was a latecomer to When Your Heart Stops Beating. Um, but Neighborhoods brought me back in. I adore Neighborhoods and Dogs Eating Dogs. So I took a little bit of a break, much like the band did, and I came back around once Neighborhoods popped off because that man, I remember the first time listening through Ghost on the Dance Floor, and when you hear Mark's backing vocals come in on the verse, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. And it's just such a
Mm,
small little moment, right? But it was just like, fuck, they're singing together again. It was
yes.
magnificent.
I don't think people realize how big of a deal that first Angels album was. Because I
Yeah.
remember even amongst like some of my friends back then, I mean, I had like a little AVA shirt, like the Whisper logo,
Hmm.
and it was such a mystery. Like you didn't know what they were going to sound like without each other. And
Yeah.
the last little thing we had was Untitled, which was kind of more of like an emo direction. He had the boxcar before that. So it's like, what is Tom
Hmm.
going to do? And then when he came out with the Adventure, it was just
Oh my
mind blowing.
God.
It really
It
was.
really, yeah. I remember in college, God, this was before smartphones were really a thing. I remember like pirating the adventure and finding some software or another to make it into a ringtone and sending it to my phone so that anytime someone texted me, it was the adventure. And it was like, yes, I've made it. I've done it.
Yeah, that's such a crazy time, man. And there was like people who
Yeah.
were Team Mark, Team Tom. I was
Hmm.
probably, well, not probably. I was definitely more plus 44. I love plus 44 so much, but I always loved them both. Like, I just wanted them to all be happy and doing what they want.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
always just kind of like, man, it's so weird that they break up because they don't have time for music or they don't want to make music. And then they both turn around and instantly make music. It's
Yeah.
weird. That's another thing that's like I feel kind of bad for folks who weren't around at that time because it was exciting, but just in a totally different way that really we haven't had since then.
It really was. I feel like the internet was still new-ish, right? So you were leaning on rumors. Occasionally, I know Mark would do interviews here or there. You'd get snippets of Tom's. I feel dramatically for Tom and the position he was in with, the back pain and the addictions that spawned. Much like Tom, I have a real shit lower back, so I understand how that messes with your head and warps your perception of everything. So when I kind of go back and look at some of that footage of him from then, I get it. Like, okay, I
Yeah.
understand where he was mentally with that. And then you see him kind of wean off everything and just become a little bit more grounded, if you could ever use that to describe Tom and
Yeah.
Angels. But yeah, man, it was a wild time back then.
Yeah, the part that I actually I've come to understand a little bit better is like the kid aspect. So, Tom said at the time, he's like, I
Yeah.
have a 2-year-old daughter who doesn't even fucking know me. And like, I don't want to be on a bus in the UK right now. I need to be at home. And for me, there's a human side of musicians and actors and celebrities and such that I don't think a lot of people realize. And
Hmm.
the older I get, the more I really come to understand like that's the important stuff. Yeah, you've got fans. Yeah, it's rad that you're big enough to where you can have a tour bus and your family can come out with you. But I just read in Greg Graffin's book, he was talking about this. Yeah, it's awesome. We have enough money to have our own bus. But do you think my wife and my 2-year-old kid want to be on a fucking bus in Belgium eating pizza
Uh-huh.
for the fifth night in a row? Like it's
Yeah.
not, it's tough. So it's like that little side of things I totally understand, and I can completely understand. Like, at that point they didn't need the money. They've already proven everything they could need to prove. So it's an interesting dilemma. I see both sides of it. I'm pretty sure I've talked about this multiple times on the podcast, but it's interesting. So I guess to fast forward a little bit to Neighborhoods, because I actually just listened to that again a week ago, kind of just preparing for, those three playing together again. I hadn't revisited Neighborhoods in some time, but man, that album's rad. And I know folks are starting to kind of appreciate it a little bit more the past few years. But the tones on that, I think Travis is killing it. And just where everybody is sonically on that album, it was just a perfect representation, I thought, of where they were at that time period.
Yeah, it absolutely was. And I know that a lot of folks at the time and still are like, oh, Tom was injecting too much Ava into it. Man, I love a good synth, right? In my band in high school, we had an incredible keyboard player. Calling him a keyboard player is disrespectful to his actual talents on a keyboard, or on a piano rather. But so I've always been a sucker for synth and keyboards being added into something. So I honestly, I loved that injection into Blink. I thought it was a natural continuation of where they had left off with. I mean, Untitled was so sonically different from everything else. So it made sense to me that they would continue to kind of change and tweak. And then it wasn't always there, right? Like, you listen to Natives, and that is just raw and wonderful. So it has some real big peaks for me. There's some, I tend to come down on, I think I have some controversial takes on Neighborhoods. I don't much care for Hearts All Gone. And I know I know. But then you give me Natives. You give me Ghost on the Dance Floor, Even If She Falls, like Love Is Dangerous. That album is just, I think it's magnificent.
Yeah, it's a good album. I mean, I think it's tough for folks to realize that you can't just rip 6 years of Angels and Airwaves out of Tom, or 5 years, however long. He was clearly going that direction. So I think what you have to kind of deal with is just that perfect blend of the three. And that's why the album is called Neighborhoods, because they all three have these different influences from different neighborhoods, and they bring them together, and you have that tug, that pull, that little bit of healthy tension that Tom talks about, and you end up with what you end up with. So I think it was a perfect representation of where they were at that time. And then Dogs Eating Dogs kind of built on that. So that's something that when it comes to this new album, man, we got Edging, and I think Edging is super fresh. I don't know anything that sounds like it. It caught me by surprise, because I just wasn't sure what direction they were going to go. And that's something that I'm still super curious to hear. Like, will it pick up from that? Is it going to be a combo of Lifeforms and Nine? I don't know yet.
I'm super, super curious, because I know. So I think and again, this is all, speculation. And I don't have insight into where Tom, Mark, or Travis are mentally, how they're approaching anything. It's just me observing over, X number of years of fandom. So I just want to be clear about that. I'm so curious. Like, we've heard Tom say when he was promoting Lifeforms that he understands now how to kind of separate, oh, this is an Angels thing versus this is a Blink thing. So I'm curious. I want to know what that means to him, what that sounds like, because I felt like there were more than a few songs off of Lifeforms that I thought could have been Blink tracks. In particular, I thought like Time Bomb would have been an amazing Blink song. It's possibly my favorite off of Lifeforms, but there's that. I think, the way Mark was approaching Blink when Matt was in the band seems to be a little bit more heavily focused on the pop side of things, and kind of where music production was at that period of time, right? The 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19 era of how songs were made and constructed. So I wonder, because Edging feels pretty different to me than a lot of what we heard on Nine. I'm like you. I'm curious. I want to know. I want to know what they're both bringing to this from the last, what was Dogs Eating Dogs, 2012? Yeah, the last time they recorded together. I'm hungry for it. I can't believe that was just over 10 years ago.
Yeah, man. It's fucking crazy. I mean, if you think
Yeah.
about that, it is crazy. So yeah, hopefully sooner than later. I mean, it's got to be
Yeah.
coming pretty soon. I
Oh
mean, they
yeah.
still have the spring summer slated release date. So I
Hmm.
suspect we'll get new song at minimum, hopefully around the launch of this tour. I mean, we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
I
I'm
want to
stoked.
switch. Yeah, I want to switch gears a little bit here. So let's talk about your bass project. So
Yeah.
I don't know when exactly you kind of started documenting this stuff, but I know it's ramped up quite a bit pretty recently. So Joey here, and he and I chat primarily on Mark's Discord. So shout out, hi, my name is Mark Discord. A lot of rad folks there, very kind community. And a lot of times there's a handful of us that are just talking about history in the Blink channel or dropping random bass pictures. And at some point during that time, you kind of started really honing in on, okay, I've got to document this stuff, and we need to know exactly what years this was played, down to the show.
Hmm.
When did Mark add this sticker? When did he change the pickup or whatever it is? It needed documented, and you took it upon yourself to really take this to a whole new level. Because to that point, yes, Alan's very knowledgeable. Davey, of course, has his archives. Sticker Strat crew, Gear 182 dudes, I'm sure they've got some files going on this. I have some, but you're the first one that I've seen like, okay, this has to be organized and it's got to be, super nitty gritty details. So talk to us about what inspired you, I guess, to start this and kind of where you're at with it.
Yeah. So honestly, it came about. The official project came about because I got tired of forgetting. I know that I've been following Mark's bases as long as I've been following the band, since '99. Um, but I would constantly forget details that I know that I knew. So it was honestly earlier this year in January, we were talking. I don't remember what base it was. I know Sid came up. Sid was the Olympic white with a black pick guard from the Untitled era. We were trying to figure out, oh, what happened to that? Because I think, as always, we were trying to figure out what happened to the graffiti yellow base from the AOL sessions. Still don't know. Have some ideas, but and I was like, oh, geez, what happened to that bass? Knowing full well that back in like 2018, Robert had transferred its electronics and the neck into a new P bass body, but I forgot that again. And so it was shared once again. And I was like, I'm sick of this. I need to just take my little Apple Notes that is just random, poorly organized, like, oh, this bass, this year, and started just actually putting it all together in a Google Doc. I built out a pretty extensive, I've got it behind us right now, an extensive folder system of every bass, every guitar that I've been able to track every year that it was used. And within each year, what was its, for example, let's look at Scully, Mark's first hot pink bass. Scully had, to start off with, a two-piece pick guard, right? It had the Perloid pick guard and the metal control plate. Then it added the Atticus Broken Heart sticker. Then it was a one-piece pick guard. Then it was a one-piece pick guard with the Atticus word mark. Then it was the Finnish flag. Then it was the smiley face and the F and the keychains. So I started tracking all of those little iterations and changes, and it has just expanded and expanded and expanded. I think I started when I just started putting it all together. I was at like, I don't know, 82, 86 bases. Literally just this morning hit 101.
Jesus.
Because Mark told us that he has 3 new bases in the works from artists, and he had just bothered Fender about making a 90s themed. You remember those cups from the 90s, the jazz
Oh yeah.
coloration?
Yeah.
So Davey brought that up yesterday, and Amal was like, imagine how funny it'd be to try to explain to someone that you have a jazz themed Jaguar bass with a P bass pickup. And Mark loved that and immediately hit a Fender. So now they're making him that bass. So that's the 101st bass that's going to be in this compendium.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Gosh, 101 basses. Does
Yep.
that include his guitars though?
So that's guitars and basses. I don't have an exact count of how many guitars are mixed in here, but this is everything from acoustic basses that he used in 2012, or It's everything that I've been able to find.
Mm.
And I know that it's short. I know that there are more out there, right? That we just don't know about, that we haven't seen. But this is everything that I have seen a reference to or seen a photo of.
Gosh. So
Yeah.
you're kind of like me because I'm the same way. It's like I get sick of forgetting stuff and I take impeccable notes. I mean, this translates into like my real work life. That's probably why I'm valuable there. But I take extremely detailed notes because I don't want to ask somebody and I don't want to forget it. So
Yeah.
when it comes to like my documentation of Blink autographs and stuff, I mean, my organization is just bam, date, exactly everything I need. So you were kind enough to share me like
Hmm.
with me your Google Drive that you had started, and I've already referenced it a couple times, and I love how organized you are, man. You've got that shit broken down.
It so I'm an immensely chaotic person. And I crave organization. I just so rarely go out of my way to organize things. This is like the one big thing where it's like, oh no, I'm gonna organize this. This is gonna be neat and tidy. And part of that is because I want to, I don't know what the end form of this is, right? I keep thinking, oh, I'll release it as like a an ebook or something, for free, or like pay what you can and money can go to a charity. So I want this to be as well organized as possible because I'm going to need to run this by people, right? I'm running it by folks like you. I would love to get Mark involved to write a foreword if it goes that direction. That's all like way down the road, a pipe dream, but I want this to look as good as I can because I know that I'm going to be bringing other people involved. And I don't want them to look at it and be like, damn, Joey just doesn't know what he's doing. That guy is scattered. So it's as
Right.
much about making me try to look as good as I can as it is anything else.
Yeah. Has there been anything that has just completely surprised you on this? Like I don't even know what to bring up, but just like a base that he used longer than you thought, or an early appearance, or one that changed. I mean, has there been stuff that just, I guess, set you aback? Like, holy fuck, that's crazy.
So most recently, we've been scouring for the graffiti yellow base I mean, pretty much since 2003. I love graffiti yellow. For the brief moment in time when I had a Tom DeLonge Strat, it was the graffiti yellow one. It's just gorgeous. It's a great color. I think Mark is very wrong when he says it's the worst color, but I've
Urine.
been trying to. Exactly. Urine has been, and I don't know if I remember hearing that's what Tom called his graffiti yellow. I don't know if that actually translated to Mark. I keep trying to, again, this is more information that I keep trying to find out, these little tidbits, but I love that color and I want to know where that base wound up because we don't see it again after the end of the Dollar Bill tour.
Mm.
Mark has been pretty consistent in thinking that it turned into that it was repainted and became a different base. Well, earlier this week, I put out a call for folks who might have photos from the Dollar Bill tour because pictures from 2003, 2004 are hard to come by because you had to smuggle in a disposable camera. Security was looking for them. They would throw it out right in front of you. Um, so it's hard to have real good pictures of an entire show to see what bases were played. What I've recently found, someone responded to me at the very first, or no, at the last show of the Dollar Bill tour in at Soma in San Diego. We see a hot pink base with no finish flag, but with the pink uh, Famous Stars and Straps F keychain.
Mm.
Now, just a few nights before, we see the graffiti yellow base with the pink uh, Famous Stars and Straps keychain that was just added to it. And then we never see the graffiti yellow base again. And I'm pretty sure that this is the pink base that was used in Always, that was then used in the latter half of 2004 touring, making its first appearance. What I want to figure out is that the graffiti yellow that's been repainted? Because again, Mark is convinced that graffiti yellow got repainted. Not that he gave it away, that it was repainted. Um, and there's no definitive way to tell right now, but all of a sudden this one base disappears and this other one shows up. There's uh, there's a lot to try and figure out, right? Trying to match up wood grains on the fretboard to see, oh, is it the same? Is it the same? Is it not? And that's so hard to do with, you know, fan photos from the front row on a disposable camera that didn't have a flash. Um,
Yes.
So that's one of the like, oh geez, what's going on here? Um, Davey will argue this point. I think like there's a good chance that, and it depends on how you want to define it, right? In terms of longevity, I was real surprised to learn that the first Pinky, so Mark's neon pink jazz bodied bass, the one that had the black octopus on it, I think that was his most used bass, period. I think that's at the most, or at least in terms of years used. Whether or not it's shows can be debated between that and the Black Music Man, but Pinky was used throughout the most years for the longest period of time out of everything. That that boggled my mind.
That's
I couldn't believe
interesting
it
to
when it
me.
was, yeah, that it was a reunion era bass that stuck around from 2009 until he gave it away in 2016.
Mm, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Again, I don't know that this stuff is actually interesting, but it sure is to me, right? Like I'm into it. I want to know more about this sort of stuff.
Yeah,
It's
I'm with you,
super
man.
intriguing.
There's so many fucking mysteries, dude. Like everything is
Yes.
such a mystery. That's what's crazy.
It is nuts. I have a whole separate document that's just literally titled mysteries. It's everything from lost bases. I think I'm up to like, and this is where it gets weird into the nitty gritty too, right? Like, what do you consider a lost base? Is a lost base one of the cheap squires that was purchased pre-tour specifically to give away to people at soundcheck? Is that a lost base? Because is that really Mark's base if it was bought to be given away? Um, so it's like 20 to 25 bases that are missing in some way, shape, or form.
Mm.
And we know where some of them are. It's just that they're not in Mark's possession anymore. Um, but yeah, man, mysteries galore. And one of the more fun pieces of this project is reaching out to people who had some hand in the bases or in Blink's history just to try and learn a little bit more. I'm not going to sit here and take credit for Cheetah coming back, but I hit up Cheetah and was like, "Hey, man, what information? I know you've got all this footage. Do you still have any of it? Is there any way we could, trade for some of it? I don't know what I have to offer, but I would love to see some of what you do. What did you have from that era, from the time you were with them?" And the next thing I know, he's sending me a link to his little YouTube video that's like, "Oh, Cheetah's back. If we get a lot of people watching this, I'll keep putting stuff out," and he has.
Mm.
So hitting up people like Cheetah, hitting up Alex Perez at Fender to try and, who, for those who don't know, Alex Perez is who worked with Mark and Tom to create their instruments while they were working with Fender. So I'm trying to get like firsthand sources, right? Because photos and fan posts from Angel Fire websites, those are wonderful, those are great anecdotes, but actually hearing it from the people who were there is so clutch,
Yeah.
so clutch for this.
What I like about most of the folks I reach out to, kind of like an Alex or a Cheetah or something, is they can kind of sense that you're in it out of passion. And I think people are more inclined to help when they know that that's kind of your cause. Because, dude, I mean, I even get hit up sometimes and I'm like, man, you've got a fucking angle. Like, I'm not going to
Yeah.
help you when you got an angle. It's like, I'm not passing your EP to Mark. I'm sorry. But if somebody, but if something's like, for example, Christopher Holmes, I reached out to Christopher Holmes because we had never seen that pink camo bass. That's something that
Yes.
wouldn't have been out or available if it weren't for you kind of starting this. And we had a conversation about it. And so it's rad when folks kind of go above and beyond to help with this kind of stuff, because they can see that we're just passionate fans, basically just trying to do rad stuff.
Yeah, it's very much I'm in this for the information. I'm in it for the base porn, quite frankly, because like you said, I remember hearing rumors about Mark having a pink camo bass around the time that we thought it would have been delivered. We've since learned that I think it was delivered right around the end of 2004. I'm trying to get confirmation from Alex on that. But I remember hearing just these random rumors, but never once seeing a photo of it. And
Mm.
then you fast forward to 2015, Mark mentions it specifically in a Facebook post in a, I don't remember what group or channel or whatever. And then he confirmed it in the Discord that, yeah, it went to Chris Holmes. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a second. Ryan's got kind of he with your pod, you've made these connections, and it's like, oh shit. Well, suddenly we might be able to actually see this thing that that's been a mystery for almost 20 years. I
Crazy.
love those, dude. I love those moments.
It's crazy. And I will say we are extremely lucky that Mark has not only documented and photographed most of his current bases, but he's
Yeah.
used, I mean, Mark's a gearhead, so he's
Yep.
down to chat about this stuff. So we're really lucky, because if you were trying to do this with, a band member who's not accessible or who will not reply or is not a gearhead,
Yeah.
you're kind of climbing up a shitty creek there. So that's rad. It's awesome that Mark's been really kind, to yourself, me, all the
Yeah.
folks in the Discord, for anybody who's really just trying to get out rad information.
It's honestly been a surprise just understanding. It's the cliche, don't meet your heroes. Granted, I haven't met him. I chat with him on the internet. But Mark's been just an incredible human being to be in the orbit of, in this little Discordian way. The information that he's been so willing and open to sharing, the questions that he's always asking to try and remember, his own history. It's been fantastic, because there are just a ton of folks who are as giving as he is when it comes to information and trying to find out the truth of all this stuff. And that's what makes this whole project possible. I don't figure out where his Mary Kay White reunion base is without the Gear 182 guys, without Stefan being like, oh, hey, so here's where this kind of wound up. I know that it's in good hands right now. There's these, I love all these little moments of us helping each other out, because we don't have, like you said before, there's not an agenda behind it, right?
Right.
I'm not trying to step over you in order to get this information and get it out there first.
Right.
And that makes it that much easier, and I guess safer, to like share these like finds. Like, oh shit, there was how many different, God, I should look. Mark had, I think he's on his third pink Jaguar base, for example,
Mm.
right? Like there was the first Fender one, then there was the second Fender one, now there's the Matty Barato one. There were two different black on black jazz basses from the reunion era. Like finding out all of these little details, like, oh, wait a second, no, that's not the same translucent surf green bass from 2010. That's a whole new one. What happened to that? And then you start pinging that off of people, and they're like, no, wait, I have a photo from that show. He gave it away. And you figure out all these you put the timeline together through
Yeah.
collaboration.
One thing, and maybe it's just me being naive, but I was shocked. I remember a few years ago, I was talking to Mark about it, and for some reason, I just seemed to think that they had so many bases. Like, I mean, I thought he had several lettuces, or, just multiple variations of these. And I was just shocked when he was like, no, man, I've got one. Like I know you've got a ton documented, and he's got some in storage, of course, but was that what you thought in regards to, I guess, just how many they have or use? Because some of these bases, man, he keeps for a long time and loves them.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't know necessarily what I expected. What my real draw into his bases was Scully. That's the first base that really got me. So I desperately missed it when it didn't show back up for the reunion. And so that's kind of where my interest really kind of peaked into, like, oh, well, how many of these are rolling around? What is he using? Are there extras? Are there not? And it's been, man, it has boggled me how many instruments there are. Uh, Again, like I said, we're up to 101. Granted,
Mm.
four of those are in production right now, but it has staggered me how many he has gone through, how many he has just like open-handedly given away at shows, to fans, to friends. It is that generosity with gear that I would hold, sacred,
Oh yeah.
essentially. That I think has been the most surprising piece of it to me, is just how willing he has been to hand stuff away. Um, and I know that he's trying to get a lot of stuff back now, but it's been, I think that was very much the biggest surprise, was just seeing how willing he's been to give friends basses or give a fan. Literally, he lamented this in somewhere Discord maybe a few months ago. He gave away his first black on black bass from the reunion era. I've been calling it Bob just because I need nicknames for 100 odd basses. So he gave Bob away just randomly to a fan. You know, it was
Wow.
just, and it basically pressured Tom into giving away a guitar at the same time. It was amazing. Um, but there's these moments where he just hands over. That was one of his favorite sounding basses. He was like, that was one of the best sounding basses I've ever played. He just gave it to some kid, just
Wow.
gone. So that has been the most surprising piece of this, is just seeing how willing he's been to just hand something over.
Mm.
Dude, oh my God, Ryan, he Robert stopped it from happening, but moments after, maybe a couple of shows, I'd have to pull it up to find out. Just a few shows after Mark got his Matty Barato Pinky, his latest hot pink Jaguar bass, handcrafted by Matty Barato, he gave it to a little kid. He gave it to a little girl that they brought on stage. And at the end of the video, you see Robert grab the girl.
That's funny.
But Mark finishes that show. That was during 2019. That was the Enema uh, anniversary show. So he finishes the shows playing Petey, which is pretty rad. But yeah, that was one that Robert stopped from going home because, I mean, it still had the his walk around pack on it. It still had the strap. It had everything still connected. And it was a Matty B bass that Mark literally just took off his shoulder and gave to like the 7-year-old kid. Oh my God.
Come
So
to
again,
think of it.
it's nuts. It is nuts. I was convinced for a minute that Mark had to have had like 2 of those made. So I was like, did this dude just give that away? But just again, so that sort of generosity, whether it's just an in the moment joyous thing, or if it's more thought out gift for a friend, the generosity behind him, like, yeah, this is yours now, that's been the craziest part of this whole thing.
That just made me think 2019, Mark handed me Petey at a sound check, and then Robert actually took it back. So I wonder if Mark was giving me Petey. I should have just ran like hell.
Should have gotten out to your car and never come back. Sorry you missed the show, but you've got Petey.
That's funny. Well, so to wrap up on the Blink-182 bass project talk, I just want to ask, you alluded to it earlier, but I'm curious, like, do you have kind of an end goal? Is it a compendium?
Yeah, I'm not collecting this information just for me, right? I'm holding it close to my chest for right now,
Yeah.
because I don't have everything verified. It's still a work in progress, right? I don't want to share something that is incomplete. That's going to make me look like an idiot because I don't have the right information. I do. I've had some chats with a few folks. Joe from the Blink community. She's got the poster project, the Blink-182 poster project.
Oh yeah.
She's an incredible designer. I've been chatting with her about maybe helping design a cover for it. Like, make this. I want this to look and feel as professional as it can, coming from such an amateur level, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
I want it to look good. I wanted to represent the community as much as it possibly can. So that's why I wanted to hit up Joe to be like, hey, let's work together. Let's figure out, how we can get something going there. I would love to eventually work with Davey on like page layouts and typeface and all of this stuff to, again, get it looking as real of a book as possible. I think that's the plan, is release it as an ebook. I keep leaning more and more towards a pay what you can, donations to charity or something. In time, and I'm not trying to overstep my position in the community, I would love to reach out to Robert's family and see if there's a particular charity that they would love proceeds to go to, right? Because so much of his passion for this, for these bases, is the foundation of this, right? I have used his Tumblr, his Instagram, the dates when he shared photos has been essential to tracking when this bass was introduced. And this was a signature model that Fender's Custom Shop then relicked. So he was such an integral part of the Blink family. I want to dedicate the thing to him because again, it's like this doesn't happen without everything that he did for
Mm.
Blink and Mark and the bases and the community, right? Like he was always down to have a conversation. I know he helped Alan a ton. I know he was just a hell of a dude. So I want this to be as much a celebration of like Mark's bases as it is the Blink bass community. And Robert was such a huge part of that. So there's, again, big ideas. I don't want to, those are bridges that I will cross, but these are all the things that are swirling around in my head, right? I want to, oh man, I want to commission. I'm, oh, I don't know if I want to talk about it or not. You can cut this out if I freak out later. I'm like, dude, take it out, take it out. I want to commission some prints that are basically like eras of the basses, right? So get like the super early stuff, the Mako bass, the first Black Fender, the Black Music Man. Get like these eras that are showing each iteration of the
That'd be
bass with
sick.
different stickers, different pick guards. Do that for every single one that we can.
Mm.
I think it would be super cool to I don't know how to release that. I don't know how to. I'm sure that would be expensive. I'm not made out of money, so I don't know how I want to do all this stuff. But man, I have big ideas to make this feel again as legitimate as it possibly can be, while being amateur as shit.
Dude, could you imagine a poster that is like just all of his bases in order, and then like fucking signed at the bottom?
Oh,
Man,
don't, Ryan, don't.
woo!
That would
That would be
be
sick.
man. And the thing is, like, you get a bass like Scully that I could pull up the folder right now. It has a million iterations, right? So
Yeah.
it was used 2001 through 2004, shows up in 2006 for plus 44, shows up in 2008 on MTV. We see it in the insurance photos from 2020, and then Mark brings it out of retirement last year for a Twitch stream. Now it's
Mm.
back on tour. Every time it looks different. So it's like Scully alone could have its own full size like print
Yeah.
dedicated just to all of its looks. So yeah,
Yeah.
I have oh I have ideas, I have dreams
Yeah.
about
One of
all this could turn into.
I think in some way it'll come to fruition. I mean, one of my dreams, and Mark knows this, I've talked to Mark about this, is a Blink book. So, we have Tales from Beneath Your Mom, which his sister put out, but that was in 2000. So it's been some time. But I
Mm-hmm.
envision like a large coffee table book that's like rad merch, rad collectibles. You go year
Yeah.
by year, it shows their gear. But there's enough to where you could have a Mark Hoppus bass guitar coffee table book. You could have a Tom coffee
Yeah.
table book. I mean, there's a lot of potential there. I think, Mark has shown interest in that. And I think the key to a lot of it, and this just happens in the print world, but it comes down on some of these to like photo rights. So
Yep.
it's like no
Oh
matter how
yeah.
many rad photos you find online or whatever, if they're not yours or we don't have a sign off on it, which is a pain in the ass, I bet, to round
Oh
up,
yeah.
it's going to be tough to be able to include that. So, Mark has actually mentioned in some capacity myself, and he's even mentioned you, like checking out his bases and storage, documenting them, photographing them. So if that happens, dude, that would be
Phew.
a huge step in the right direction.
Oh man, it absolutely would. If that is the sort of thing that becomes real, and it's like, okay, let's talk about timing or anything like that. I'm gonna, bug you. Hey man, can you bother Chris Holmes and see if he'll bring the baby blue music man? Will he
Yeah.
bring the pink camo so we can properly catalog all of these things? If there's someone in the LA area who Mark gave one of his bases to, Mary Kay or Pinky, if those are in the area, I would love for those folks to come down and help get it documented. You don't have to give it back. That doesn't mean Mark's not going to try to take it from you, but I would love to be able to get everything under one roof for a hot second, for just a
Mm,
quick moment in history for photos.
that'd be sick. That'd be sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last thing on that, I just want to say, man, I miss Robert. I was just thinking the other
Yeah.
day with these studio sessions, like he would have had so many rad
Yeah.
photos. Like I miss his pictures and his presence and just chatting with him before shows and shit. Like, man, it's just such a bummer.
Yeah, I'm not finishing my stage right coffee espresso because I don't want to get rid of the bag. So I've still
Yeah.
got like, X number of beans still in there that's just hanging around. I've still got the little blink-182 blend. Yeah, man, I've got those. I've around the corner. I've got like he just would throw picks and shit into his order. It was, oh,
Yeah.
dude was fantastic. And I say that as someone who only interacted with him just a couple of times, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, he was such a great human. And this isn't, let's be real, this isn't a takeaway from Diaz at all. Diaz
Right.
has been
Right.
wonderfully accessible. His photos have been killer. He is clearly fitting right in with the Blink fam. But man, yeah, Robert was a titan. He was just
Totally.
a hell of a human.
Yeah, yeah. I just showed on screen. I keep his little stage right pick right next to my PC, and as silly as it sounds, I kind of keep it there as a little reminder of like, don't take anything for granted, I guess.
Yeah.
Don't take any days for granted. Okay, well, that's awesome. So obviously I'm happy to support. I try to help when I can on the Blink project. So I would say if anybody has any rad like unseen photos, maybe ones that you snapped or took, hit Joey up, Blink-182 base project, or send them to me. I'll send them over either way. It's fascinating to me how difficult it is to find photos, like you mentioned, even from like 99 to 03, 04. Like,
Oh
dude,
man.
we don't even fucking know when Tom basically started playing his signature straps on stage. I mean, it was like
That's
I think Punk Mum's photo from Australia in like March
yeah.
or April or something that she just found a couple months ago or last year.
Yeah.
That's like the first photo we have of it. So
That's
any
incredible.
information, yeah, any information anybody has or whatever, if you want to be a part of it, just hit us up.
Yeah.
I want to transition to hashtag Operation Peachy. So you mentioned you have a little tab called Mysteries. And this
Yep.
is a mystery that you probably had on there and were able to cross off. So, for those of you who have seen Joey's page, you may have noticed last week that one of Mark's long lost basses, this is an Ernie Ball Music Man, it's peach colored, that's why it's called Peachy. It was found. And not only was it found, it's in Joey's possession. So let's chat about that. I want to
Whew.
hear, and I want the listeners to hear exactly kind of how this came to be, how it ended up in your hands, and then kind of future thoughts on it.
Yeah, man. It's again, much like the compendium, it is a community effort to get Peachy to me. On Cheshire Cat's birthday, Babushka from the community hit me up. It was a very frantic message. First thing I remember Friday morning because it completely derailed the rest of my Friday. He was like, "Dude, I need a second set of eyes. I feel like I think I found one of Mark's bases, but I'm not sure. I need you to like make sure that I'm not going crazy." And he sent me the Craigslist link, and I looked at it, and it was, I mean, is this gorgeous peach base? And it's like, wait a second, how can we be sure? And then he immediately followed that up with he did his own Davy Jones esque analyzation of a headstock photo, right? So the seller on Craigslist included a great shot of the headstock showing the wood grain patterns. Babushka, using one of Davy's old photos from '98,
Mm,
uh, was able to zoom in enough and get clear enough image of the wood grain patterns, the most distinct ones, because again, it's a washed out '98 photo, right? You're not getting high def images here. Um, they're an exact match. Like the headstock wood grains are an exact match. And I immediately hit up Alan Corona. He built one of Mark's bases, Gin. I've got an Alan Corona base hanging up behind me. Dude knows, he knows wood beyond just instruments. He knows wood. And so I was like, is there any way that like wood grain will ever be identical? Like spot on, you know, millimeter by millimeter, could it ever match? And he was like, no, that's just the way that trees grow, the way that that works. Not going to happen.
right.
And that sold me. Once Alan let me know, like, no, that doesn't happen. Um, Babushka let me know that, like, hey, I tried hitting this guy up. I haven't gotten a response. I don't want this to get lost, is what he told me. Um, as you might expect, he was hesitant to share it because who wouldn't be? Who wouldn't want to own one of
Right.
Mark's lost bases? But he didn't want it to get lost again. And to his credit, Babushka hit me up and was like, listen, give it, reach out, see if he'll respond to you. And sheer serendipity, the guy called me back later that afternoon. Um, and he and I started talking. Um, and it became clear that this man, he had Peachy for the last 20 years. So
Wow.
I'll back up real quick now that we're at the stage of how did this guy get Peachy. So Peachy was made, the manufacture date is February 18th, 1998. The very first time that I have proof of us seeing Peachy. Now, this doesn't mean it's the first appearance, just the first time that I have found video or photo evidence. February 23rd, 98 in Kansas. Um, so the timing is right. Um, we know that Mark had it and used it primarily through the summer of 98. It debuted on Conan O'Brien. Well, not a debut, but like the national debut of Peachy was March 17th, 1998. That's when I released, like, oh shit, we've got it. It just felt like a good 25th anniversary. So Mark had it, used it a ton throughout the summer, started to wean off of it in the fall. And from what we know from Adam from Phoenix TX is that Mark gave it to him during, oh God, it was 98. 98 had to have been the Poo Poo Pee Pee tour. Or was
It was
that?
the end of Poo Poo Pee Pee.
Yeah.
Because we started discussing this theory. And to
Yeah.
me, I felt like I looked at the dates and well, actually, you keep going because we need to hit on the Adam Phoenix TX component a little bit as well. But in 1998, Mark is playing 3 Ernie Ball Music Man Stingrays that he just got. There's a peachy one, there's the baby blue, and then there's greeny.
Yep. So he plays baby blue at the beginning of 98, then brings it back around towards fall and the end of 98. Don't know why, but he transitioned Peachy out towards the end of the summer. I think that's probably when he got Mr. Green. And towards the end of River Phoenix's stint on the Poo Poo Pee Pee tour, Mark gifted Adam, their bassist, Peachy. Adam has Peachy until, and again, this is where things get a little muddled, right? Has it until 2002, 2003. He kept it until then River Phoenix becomes Phoenix TX. They break up fall of 2002. And it's around then that he sells Peachy. Word is he offered it back to Mark at the time, but at the time, Blink is on top of the world. Mark's playing these awesome Fender jazz-bodied basses. What does he need a Music Man for?
Yeah.
So Mark declines, and Adam either sells it to a random person or he sells it to this vintage and high-end guitar shop in, I don't know my parts of LA, so I'm not even going to pretend. It's a northern part of LA. So it's either Adam who sells it to that shop or the person he sold it to who sells it to that shop. And then the seller in 2023, his friend owned that shop. And he remembers visiting him in there and just falling in love with this color because this is an immensely rare color, right? I don't know how many other, I think they call it salmon pink. I actually just heard from Ernie Ball yesterday about what color they might have been calling it. But pink salmon is what they called it in that era. So I don't know how many of those were made. I don't know how common it is to see that color. This is the only one that I've seen. So this guy falls in love with it. He loves the color, the way it plays. His friend's like, hey, why don't you take it home? If you like it, you can buy it. And that's exactly what happened. So this old school guitarist, this fellow he's been playing around Southern California in huge bands doing like amp work or playing guitar, playing bass as like backing bands. Super sweet fella. Kept it for the last 20 years, took amazing care of it, loved it, and just hadn't been playing it too much. And I absolutely felt bad not telling him that, hey man, we think this is Mark Hoppus's bass. But he's the kind of person that I'm going to meet up with him. The next time I'm in LA, I want to meet up with him, take him out to drinks, let him know, hey, this is kind of this is what you had. This is what's been going on with it. I think he would appreciate him being such a prolific musician himself. I think he would love seeing how it all came around. But yeah, he took amazing care of it and threw it up on Craigslist and kept it from going to people who were lowballing him. He kept it from going to resellers and other music shops, right? He told me that he had a bunch of interest in this thing, but he didn't let it go because he wanted to make sure that it went to someone who actually cared about it and wanted it, which just made like, how do you not? That's just so damn heartwarming. That's how I felt about any of the bases that I've sold is like, I'll hold out for someone who might be able to pay a little bit less if they're going to like genuine, if they want it, if this is what they've been looking for, right? There's that
For sure.
you want it to be taken care of. And so this base had been listed for a month when Babushka got a hold of me. It had been on Craigslist for a month. I couldn't believe it. And so I'm in the Pacific Northwest, right? It's not like LA is a quick trip for me. So I had to start figuring out, okay, how am I going to get this? Because he didn't want to deal with packing it up himself or accepting, Venmo or PayPal payments or anything like that. Uh, totally understandable, right? He wants to just
Yeah.
hand the base off and get cash. I'm not going to fault anyone for that. Um, Thankfully, I know a ton of people in LA, and some of the folks that I know are Katie and Steambo from the broader Blink community. They are super passionate Blink fans. They've hung out with Mark. I think they played video games on one of his Twitch streams. Fantastic people, and they also lived in a northern-ish part of LA. So I looped them in. They were totally game. They picked it up. Took such great care of it, helped me then get it shipped up to me. Oh man, like I said, community effort to one, find it. Babushka just ever since he joined the Discord, he told me he had just and knew that Peachy was missing. He made it like his passion project to find it. And he would just like troll Craigslist and Music Go Round and Guitar Center and all these sites, Facebook Marketplace, in cities where it was like suspected to have been. And dude, he found it. He found Peachy. Absolutely boggles my mind. But from Babushka, then bringing it to me and getting Alan to confirm that no, wood can't be replicated. Yeah, it could be a veneer, but that's not something that Ernie Ball was doing. They make their shit by hand. So from that then to Katie, it was just this fantastic community effort to bring one of the lost bases back into the community so that it doesn't get lost again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that I'm always appreciative of is it's like, I don't care who has it or how much they paid for it, but I just want to know it's in good, safe hands.
Yeah.
And cherished. I mean, that's what's most important to me. But I do want to go back to, I guess, the disappearance a little bit here, because this is something that I think we've chatted about a little bit. So Mark gives it away to Adam from Phoenix TX. And he eventually, in some capacity, sells it back, or sells it in general.
Mm-hmm.
We suspect probably around 0203. And the reason that we know that, because for years, I mean, I didn't know that. Nobody knew where the hell Peachy was. It was just gone. And what's crazy is a couple weeks ago, Mark woke up out of nowhere and pinged on Discord. He said, "Hey, I feel like I gave Peachy to Adam from Phoenix TX." Isn't that what he said?
Yep.
Like exactly.
Yep. He
so
literally
out of the blue,
he was dreaming about Peachy.
Yeah. So out of the blue, Mark had that thought. And what's interesting is at that point in time, I Googled, Adam Lewis, Phoenix TX. And sure enough, there was a picture of him on stage that looked like it was from 1999, 2000, right around that time, with fucking Peachy. And it's like, okay, so stuff is starting to line up a little bit. Now, also at that time, Stefan from Gear 182 had apparently had a conversation in some capacity with Adam, and Adam had confirmed that, yes, it was given to him. So Stefan had that in his back pocket, which I don't blame him. There's shit I don't release. There's shit I know that I'm not releasing yet either. But that was clearly the time to release that. So Stefan was able to confirm that. I actually have since gotten in touch with Adam to double source that, and I will say, don't bother him. He was
I
not
was going to say
particularly.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, he was not
Leave Adam alone,
particularly
please.
he was not particularly pleasant when I reached out to him. And I suspect my theory, anytime somebody sells something, especially of significant value, the reality is they probably needed the money. So there may be a little bit of, he may be embarrassed or just bummed, or maybe it's just something that he doesn't want to think about. Oh, fuck, I had to get rid of this Mark Hoppus base. It's such a huge bummer. But that is kind of where that mystery finally started to shape up. It's like, oh shit, this totally checks out. If you look at the last date of the Poo Poo Pee Pee tour, it's like October 98. My theory is that Mark maybe gave it to him, or, at that time at the last show, going away gift, or Mark was also managing them at that time.
Yeah.
If you think about the next few months, we know they started recording Enema. He's using Greenie. And then a few months into 1999, they're on Fender. He's never going to need an Ernie Ball again.
Nope.
So it's fascinating, that little time frame there. But it's clear that that bass was given away to Adam. Adam sold it for whatever reason. And then eventually the dude that you found it from had it for 20 years, which is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask, like, I had never seen that color really from a commercial standpoint either. So, I mean, did they ever even publicly release that color, or do we know?
It was a request only. The pink salmon color was only by request, or at least that's what I have been told. And everything. So I take everything that I have ever been told about any of these bases with a grain of salt, right? Like Mark's memory isn't the best. My own memory isn't the best. People weren't necessarily keeping great records back then. But what Ernie Ball has told me is that pink salmon was not a color that you could just get. That was a color that had to be requested.
Man, that's crazy.
I know.
And at some point, so you had looped me in probably a month or month and a half ago, and I think you were kind of asking me more or less about the wood grain. I tend to have a good eye for that kind of thing with authentication and such. And it's interesting because from a sports perspective, that's actually how they authenticate most game used bats, especially from eras, pre MLB certifications and stickers and letters and all that shit. But back in the day, if you say you've got a game used bat, the only way to do it is look up photos of old ones and try to match the wood grains. It's like a fingerprint, like Alan said. None of them will be exactly the same. And when you sent me that headstock and the other one, I took one look at it and I'm like, that's the same fucking bass, man.
It's staggering. Like, even when when Babushka first sent it to me, it just broke my head. And I immediately showed my wife and she just looked at me like, what are you looking at? These are just blobs, man. So it was really reaffirming for you to be like, no, this is how we do it in baseball. For you to be like, no, that's it. That was like, yes, I know I'm not just seeing things. It was such a, and we've used that, like, that's the same technique that I'm trying to use to figure out what happened to the graffiti yellow now. Is like, I don't have headstock photos, but I can look at fretboards. And rosewood is so distinct and has such beautiful patterns in it. So using the wood grain to kind of figure it all out is just, I love that level of detail. Like, that I feel like is the incomposition of this whole bass project, right? Is just getting into the dirt with this minor, quote unquote minor detail, and using that to figure something out, like to solve a mystery. And oh my God, now all of a sudden we've got Peachy.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Dude, it's nuts.
That's fucking rad. So this thing shows up at your door. I mean, how stoked are you unpacking that damn thing?
So I was so excited, and I was trying to be so careful. So I've watched the video back, and Liz Dynamite from the community made fun of me for it. She was like, look at Joey's face. He just looks like, flat, just like no emotion. It's because I'm trying to not drop the bass, because I'm trying to like actually realize, oh my God, this is it. This bass was on Conan O'Brien. It played across the states. It still doesn't make sense to me. Like, I don't know. I've talked to a few people about it, trying to make sense of, like, this is something that I've seen only ever in 2D, right? I've seen it in photos, I've seen it in videos. So there's this abstract notion of it exists. but there's this disconnect between it exists and it's sitting on my workbench right now. Like shit, you can see the peachy color right behind me right here. I've got
Yeah.
it in pieces because it is disgusting and it needs to be cleaned. But it doesn't. There's the part of me that gets it. It's like, oh shit, that's Mark's base. And there's the part of me that's like, it is a base. How could it possibly be that base? But it
Yeah.
fucking is. It
Yeah.
is. And it still staggers me every time I look at it. Every time I scrape a little bit of Mark's sweat off of it, it's like that's his base.
It's crazy. Yeah, dude, we're so lucky. I don't
Oh my
think people
god.
realize how lucky we are that Davy Jones not only took so many rad photos back then, but
Yes.
is open
Oh
with
my
it and
god.
still around to chat about it, because there are so many things that
Yeah.
Davy and his little camera he snuck on his nutsack into a show. It's responsible for a lot, man. I mean,
Oh
dude,
my
my
god. Yeah.
favorite picture he has ever taken is that you know it. It's Mark's hopping with Peachy with the hat on. That's my
Yep.
favorite picture
Ah.
that Davey took, and that's fucking crazy that that bass guitar Mark's playing right there is sitting right behind you.
It doesn't make any sense. And I have, to your point, yeah, I am so grateful for everything that Davey had, for all the cameras that he taped to himself. I am so glad that we have all of that, because it has been, without that photo that he took, I don't know that we
Yeah,
verify this. I
no,
don't
that
know that
thing's
we do, because I haven't found another good headstock photo that
yeah,
shows what we would have needed it to show. Uh, it would have been a guess. It would have been a good guess, but that his photo is what helps us say that's Peachy.
yep, yeah. Without Davey's photo, that thing's still sitting on Craigslist, and some dad's gonna buy it for his son
Uh-huh.
Jimbo to play at a seventh grade recital.
Oh, golly,
It's
that's nuts.
unreal. So
Yeah,
Mark has shown interest in obtaining this, reobtaining
yeah,
this. Have you thought about what you want to do with it? If there were to be some sort of trade, have you thought about what it would
man,
take? It's tough, dude. I know, dude,
it
because I'm the same way,
is.
man. I got one of Tom's guitars sitting right there. And to me, I'm like, man, if Tom came to me and was like, Ryan, I need that fucking guitar back, I would have, I would try to
How
find a
do you say
way.
no?
No, Tom, fuck off. I would have to find a way, but it's tough, man, because not only, I mean, for us, this stuff costs a lot of
Yeah,
money. It's not like this was
yeah,
$5. But it also, there's a sense to these where I'm like, I'm not the home. It's kind of how I
yeah.
feel about it, but it is what it is. Tom, I don't think wants that back. But if Mark wants that, have you thought about it?
I ultimately, to your point, where it, I mean, I'm still calling it Mark's base, right? It
Yeah.
is quite technically, legally, it is my base, but I don't see it as my base. I guess I'm almost looking at it like I'm the temporary owner, right? I do intend on getting it back to Mark. I don't know what I don't know what that looks like. I would
Yeah.
love a trade, man. I would love to uh, trade him for one of his bases, right? But considering the trend towards, he's trying to get back groundskeeper Willie, he's looking for the Black Music Man, he was looking for this one too, like literal days before we revealed that we had it, he was like, Black Music Man, Peachy, groundskeeper Willie, bring them home. It's
Yeah.
like, well shit, Mark. So I'm planning to, like, I want to record with Peachy, right? At first I want to clean it up, but I want to record with it. I want to play it live. I want to use it the way that I would one of my own bases, right? I want to show it off. I want folks to be able to see it, not necessarily know that, hey, that's Mark's base, right? I'm going to put an air tag in the case, for crying out loud. I'm going to hide that sucker in there. Anywhere Peachy goes, I'm going to know exactly where it is. But I think it is going to get back to Mark. I don't know what the trade looks like. I mean, in an ideal dream world, he would just hand me Scully and I could ride off into the sunset. But that is the most unreasonable idea in the
That's
world.
that's not a fair
I,
trade, in my opinion.
no, oh my God,
I
no.
would
That is.
veto that. If I was the commissioner, I would veto that. That's not happening.
It would never happen. Um, Scully is my favorite bass. I wouldn't expect your listeners to know that, but that's why I specifically mentioned Scully. No, I would if there was a bass that he was willing to trade for it, I would, I think it would be rad as hell to have the Always bass, his second hot pink Fender. Um, he hasn't used it in almost 20 years, but I would never expect him to actually be like, yeah, you can have that bass, but I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to ask, hey, can I?
You got a little bit of leverage here.
Just a smidge until I'm in the practice space and Peachy's there too. And then it's like, oh shit, the doors close. Diaz is standing at the door. Jake's right in front of him and Mark's there. No, I think it'd be, there's the black bass with the black pickguard and the blue octopus sticker. I think that is just such an incredible combination. It's gorgeous. I would honestly, I would just love to have one of his like toured basses. I think that would be super, super rad. But at this point, I'm not expecting anything like that. But fuck, would it be rad? It would be so cool.
I don't think we have a picture of Peachy being played alongside my Arnett Les Paul. As shocking as that is, because they were both played exclusively in 1998, essentially.
Yeah.
I don't think we do. But if we do, you and I should meet up and go to like Jimmy John's, and we'll just set those guitars next to us. Like, if these people only fucking knew how much Blink history is sitting here at this table.
God, right there. Oh man, I'm going to have to go back through all my photos and just see. I feel like I see it with the sticker strap. I'm going to look through everything and see if I can track that down. But yeah, I think you're right. I don't think we've got any of it.
If you see it, let me know. All right. Well, I'm glad it seems like it's safe, it's cherished, and wherever it ends up, you've got good intentions with it. So yeah, dude, that's awesome, man. I'm so stoked for you.
Thank you. It still doesn't make sense. I look at it, I hold it up to the light right now. Again, like I said, it's in pieces. So I'll examine each part and I'll be like, this is it. This is Peachy. But it's real. Like, I don't know how you feel with yours, but it's just like this, again, a disconnect of why do I have this? How do I have this?
It's really hard for me to wrap my head around too. Like when I hold it to me, honestly, it just still feels like this can't be Tom's guitar. Like this is a random Les Paul, but it fucking is.
Oh my God. Like, could you imagine being in the position of the fella I bought this from, just buying it from a random, music store in northern Los Angeles, and all of a sudden you've got one of Mark's Stingrays. Like, what are the odds?
Well, that's rad that he played it for 20 years and cared for it, though. I like that part of the story for sure. Man,
I do too.
All right. Well, that's awesome, dude. I appreciate you sharing, your story on both the project and Peachy, Operation Peachy. So I think what I'm going to do, we'll transition to some rapid fire, man, and I'm going to get you out of here. I appreciate your time. All right. For the rapid fire, are you ready?
Yes, but no, but yes.
I'm going to take it easy on you. Favorite Blink album?
So I'm in the Pacific Northwest. It's dark and stormy a lot in the winter time when it's cold and all of that. Untitled, easy. But once that sun comes out and it starts getting a little bit warmer, take off your pants and jacket.
Okay. I can get down with that. Favorite Blink song? All time, pick one.
Shit. It's Feeling This. I've got the lyrics tattooed on me. That one's easy.
Okay, sick. As a bass player, what is the hardest Blink song to play on bass?
Oh my God. Playing the studio recorded version of Feeling This without going into drop D and using a capo. Like, it's just absurd finger stretch to hit the B and the B and the A and the whatever. I don't know the notes offhand, but it is a monster to play that correctly as it was recorded.
Yeah, I've never paid too much attention to what Mark is actually doing there, because I'm a guitarist. I don't typically pay attention to what bass fingers are doing, but I actually watched earlier today a performance of Blink doing Feeling This. I was there, front row. I watched my own footage, and I was watching Mark's bass movement with his fingers for Feeling This, and dude, he is all over the place. It's that like do 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 do. I'm like, wow, that's more than I thought was going on.
I will sometimes just listen to on YouTube. I think someone ripped it from like Guitar Hero or something. It's just the bass and the drums from Feeling This. I'll listen to that to get hyped up because it is, you hear everything that Mark's doing. Oh, I don't know if you're hearing my dog. He's got something to say.
It's all right.
But you hear everything that he's doing, and it is a lot. It is such a fantastic line. And what's amazing, it's one of the first things he, like, you go back and you watch the Cheetah videos and the Untitled documentary, and day one, he's fiddling around with what becomes the Feeling This line. Just right away.
That's sick. All right,
Yeah.
final question. You probably know this one. House is on fire. That dog behind you is safe. Everybody is safe. Family is safe. You can grab one item. What are you grabbing and why?
So this is too easy right now. It's Peachy. If Peachy's not in the equation, then I was thinking about this earlier. So hanging up over here, I've got 3 lyric postcards from Mark. I thought it might be that, but ultimately it's got to be and I'll scoot over so you can, my Alan Corona Scully, because this, I keep coming back to it between Peachy and the Compendium and now Scully. That's a community thing, right? Alan made that body for me. Mark drew the skull and crossbone inlays way back when, and Davey helped me recreate them. So it is inlaid with like as precise as we're going to get without like proper quality photos of each inlay. So it's a community base as far as I'm concerned, right? Like that's a Davey Allen special. It warms my heart. I love the shit out of that bass. It's my favorite Mark bass, so it's a replica of that, and it doesn't exist without Allen. It doesn't exist like it is now without Davey. So if Peachy isn't in the house, if Peachy's already gone, I'm grabbing Scully.
Nice. I love it, man. Yeah. Joey, this was such a pleasure. Give him a follow at blink-182 Bass Project. Appreciate your time, man.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ryan. This is great. Yeah, this was wonderful.